here we have the port wing of the BANSHEE AIRACE, which I have already constructed, and I wanted to show you the anatomy before we go on and assemble the starboard wing. Firstly, we have a spar that runs the entire length of the wing internally. You can see there's no sign of it either side of the wing. This is the top of the wing, and that spar extends to the or extends out of the wing itself and acts as a brace that inserts into the fuselage too. We have a single rib at the end here that also obviously provides a good surface area for adhering it to the fuselage. We have our torsion rod, which is already inserted into the wing and runs internally within the wing and controls, as you can see here, the double skinned aileron too. So the wing is actually symmetrical. So it actually forms around the rib here, and it's almost a sort of a diamond shape. It's not a sort of smooth curve, it's a diamond shape with a good sharp leading edge and a nice smooth trailing edge. The skin wraps around the whole width of the cord of the wing itself, and so it's a for Microaces, it's a relatively complex wing. So anyway, let's get about making our starboard side. So the first thing we're going to need is that spar, and that actually is it starts off as a 2mm part here, which is part number V21. And it is strengthened because it's quite wibbly wobbly at the moment. It's strengthened using a plastic part. This piece here, which is actually, let's have a look, well, this one is actually P16, I think, or it might be P17. P16 or P17, doesn't really matter, they're both exactly the same. And you'll notice on here you've got two holes, and you've also got, if I can bring this up to the camera, you've got some score lines here too that you can see there. Score lines here that emulate the end of the part here, and the reason for that is this is also used for strengthening the lower wing of the biplane, which has a smaller, shorter wing. So what you do is you actually cut this part down to fit the spar for the biplane wing. So we don't need to do anything to this, but what we will do, we've got scores running down the center of the part here. I'm just going to run a knife through the scores just to loosen them up a little bit. Not cut right through, obviously. They should be deep enough that they should channel the blade so that it doesn't wander. And then we are going to shroud the 2mm foam part, the spar, with our plastic part here. So all I'm going to do now is bend along the scores to create a three-dimensional part. And then we can attach that or pop our 2mm part within this. Now, orientation of it is like so. So you can see the slot that we have cut in here is also cut into the plastic as well. and the whole thing forms up like so. So that's just a dry fit. We'll glue it into place. I'm going to do that by adding some glue to the sides of my 2mm piece here. I'm going to do this relatively rapidly, and this can get a little messy with the glue. There are other ways that you could do it that probably be less messy, but this is my preferred method. And of course, run some along the bottom of the piece as well. This is where I start getting glue on my fingers. There we go. Quickly put the lid back on, and then obviously lining up that slot, we can pop that part into place. There we go. And as predicted, a whole load of glue has splurged out, which I'll just wipe away. But then that'll produce a nice rigid spar for the wing itself. So we'll just let that dry off over there for now. And what we can do is start preparing our wing. So let's get our Banshee emblazoned wing down here. Now you'll notice that if I turn it over, there are a number of, well, obviously a number of, dropped my knife, a number of scores and a number of cuts, and particularly around the ailerons, which are the two skins are either side of the wing there. So what I'm going to do when I cut out, I'm going to cut it out so I leave the aileron skin, that's the top aileron skin, within the sheet, but I will take it off so that this one comes with. You'll also notice we've got some printed parts here that show us where to put. That's the spar, and that's a little strengthening block there that sits in front of the ailerons to stop the wing collapsing at the point where the aileron starts. Okay. So you'll also notice that around the ailerons, both sides, we have some double scoring, and wherever we've got that, what we want to do is remove the bit between the two scores. And on this side, we've just got a small amount to remove right here. So I'm just using my straight edge to make sure that I take what's needed and leave the rest. Right, I haven't actually got a scoring guide for this. Well, I say a scoring guide. I've lost the words. Beveling. I haven't got a beveling guide for this, but you should have one in the box, and so we'll make sure that we get those put in. Something I completely forgot about. But essentially what we're going to do is score the areas all around the edges here. So a nice shallow bevel. This is obviously the interior of the wing. Shallow bevel all around the edges. We don't need to put it around the aileron there, but also down here. At the root of the wing, we just leave that as it is. But essentially, what we need to do, and obviously we've got the aileron still in here, which we will release, but we might as well, while we're beveling, keep it there because we need the same bevel on here as we do on the wings themselves. So I've just brought my longer steel rule on just to elevate the part off the cutting mat, and then I'm just going to use my sanding stick to pop the bevel in down this one edge here. And I'll turn it round. I'll just do the other side. Go. And we can also do the tip of the wing here. So and also I'm just going to make sure I get right into that curve there. I'll pick the part up and supporting it with a finger behind the material. I'll then get closer in on that on the curve, essentially trying to remove as much of the white material from the edge as possible, and that when we come to glue everything together, the two printed sides should meet or almost meet. Once again, supporting with the finger underneath. Go. And the last place we can sand are these little curves at the tip here. there and there. Once again, needing fair amount of support and being pretty careful because it's quite delicate up, certainly on this side where this is protruding. There we go. Right, actually I'm going to just sand a little more here. There we go. Let's just clear the decks. Right, now I'm going to cut out the aileron from the bottom side of the wing. Yeah, that's the bottom side of the wing. Once again, you can probably see this is a, certainly on your part, there's a double score. So just cutting down one of the score lines. This is the score line closest to the wing. So when the aileron actually comes out, it'll have that little extra piece on it that we'll have to remove on all three sides. So we'll do that now. Go. And now the next part of the process is actually installing the torsion rod to control the aileron. But actually, before we do that, we need to pop the aileron back on. But obviously, we will hinge it this time so it can actually move. So to do that, we need a hinge sticker. And let me just grab my sticker sheet. And as you can see, I've already used this one here, which is S9. We have another S9, which is underneath it. So let's just peel that off. And very much like the sticker for the rudder, this sticker also has these little indents at either end, showing you where the gap is for the if I bring that up to the camera, you can see that little gap, or the little cutout there, which shows the where the gap is for the hinge line. So we need to put this on the leading edge of our aileron, or half aileron, and that is the bit that we obviously haven't sanded, and this should run right from the one side to the other. So if we attach it just there, and if I sometimes it's good that the stickers don't grip manically to the material, but other times it would be handy. So let's just get that lined up. That's there, and then there we go. Just lifting that off because the sticker's slightly distorted, so just bringing it back to place. Oh. There, that's better. So now I'm going to turn the wing over so I can then accurately place this, ensuring that there's a gap so that the aileron can flex, and obviously making sure that the aileron doesn't touch that side or that side either, so that it doesn't get impeded during its journey back and forth. Now I think we have it. So there we go, sitting there firmly. So I want to show you this little notch here, because that is where our torsion rod needs to exit to then go into the fuselage itself. And where the torsion rod leaves the edge of the wing root, we need to make sure that we measure there around the 7mm mark between the where it bends 90 degrees and where it leaves the wing root, and that is how much we need it to go into the fuselage on both wings. So to do that, I'm actually going to, I've got a marker pen here, a Sharpie. I'm just going to use my ruler to mark 7mm on that, so I know where that is. There we go. And now we're going to place that, and we're going to stick it in place using, there are 3 stickers we're going to use, S11s, 2 S11s and 1 S10. So let's just grab one of those S11s. And I'm actually going to place that just back from that 7mm mark. So just there, that's it. And then I'm going to sit this onto that notch. So this is going to run middle of the notch. And just stick it down in place, like so. With obviously this, the rest of it running generally towards the aileron. And the aileron is actually going to sit the point here that is going to rotate around itself and push this L shape here back and forth to move the aileron. That needs to sit just about on the hinge line itself, and to make sure that it stays there, we're going to use that other S11 sticker. And so we're going to hold that in place on the pivot line, and then just attach this sticker just before the aileron, so it covers like so. Notice we still have plenty of flexibility, even though it's obviously under a sticker. Fortunately, the stainless steel doesn't take particularly well to being stuck down, so it tends to move within the sticker itself, which is great for us. Now we need to secure this L shape onto the aileron itself, and we use our S10 sticker for that. This is just used to cover the L shape and make sure that it sticks firmly down to the aileron. So let me just push it into place. And it doesn't matter if you get some unsightly creases from doing it, because all of this is going to be covered over anyway. So so there we go, we have our aileron control now in place. So what next? Well, we know that this is going to bend over like that. We can see the 3 score lines down the what will be the leading edge of the wing, and you also got these scores down the middle of the wing, like so. So you can play with those and sort of bend it over and see how it all hangs together. But we need to put some structure into the internals here, and we need to start with our spar here, which we will just make sure is finished off and all glued together. Just press it all down. There we go. And we have a little something to insert in this slot here, which I'll just get from our 2mm sheet. So this is for the Banshee AIRACE. We need the V19 rib. So there we go. Grab that. That's the only rib that's needed in the entirety of this wing. And that actually sits, if we hold our spar in place there. Now the foam part, the exposed foam part, is the one that sits down onto the wing itself. So we just need to make sure that we position or orientate our rib the correct way. So it's going to be that way, like so. And just stick that in place. There we go. And then we can pop that in place, and you can see the printed mark down the center there is where our spar actually sits. So if we add some glue and get that stuck down, go. And obviously the little hole, little half hole, semicircle cut into the rib is to just hop over the torsion rod. So we want the rib to sit flush up against the wing root. There we go. And once the glue has dried a little, we'll be able to just push all of that down, and it should take shape. So you'll have noticed that the orientation of the torsion rod is that the rod itself that goes into the fuselage actually dips down, so it's down from the wing as it inserts into the fuselage above the controlling servo and servo arm, so that this goes down into. Obviously, if you've got it poking up, you'll need to get your lighter fluid out and start taking your wing apart, because you need to swap this out for the other one. So there's one other part that we need to pop in here, and it's a 2mm part. I've already cut one out, and it's this part here that sits between the V19 parts and the V21 and 20 parts. It doesn't have a part number. We've made a boo-boo. We've made an error. But essentially it's a long rectangle with a score down the center of it that is slightly offset. So when you actually cut the parts out, you get an oblong shape, but thicker at one end than the other, like so. So thin this end, thick this end, and that actually just sits. There was a graphic here. It's kind of put stuff over it now, but you can see it poking out here, and there is a little remnant of it just here. And what you essentially want to do, with the thick end facing inwards on the wing, and the thinner end going to the outer edge of the wing, you just need to pop it along there, in front of the on the ailerons. So let's get a little glue there, and we can have a bit of a play in positioning it. So it's immediately in front of the aileron. It shouldn't span too far out the other side. So I've got it sitting on the graphic just there, as you can see where it sits with the aileron, and then I'm going to bring that as far forward as possible to sit near the torsion rod. There we go. And the idea being is that this edge here is then supported by the top of this piece here, which I guess is a sort of a secondary spar. So when that comes over there, that's supported that side as well. Right, let's let those things dry off, and then we will start assembling the wing completely. So, on to the next phase, which is to stick this all down neatly, and so that the wing is symmetrical. And really essentially to do that, we just make sure that the ends here meet up correctly. So what I'm going to do is just add some glue to all of the areas that are going to come together. So on our chamfered areas at the back here, I'm not doing the aileron at the moment, we'll go on to do that later. And at the wing tip as well, fairly generous amount. And obviously along the top of the spar, but also along the top of this secondary spar as well. And then I'm just going to double up. I'm going to put glue onto the other surface as well. And then obviously we're going to wait for this to become a contact adhesive, so let it dry off. Oh, and of course we want some glue along the top of the rib here, and we'll put some where the rib's going to settle to. There we go, and we'll now put that to one side, let it dry. We'll come back and put it together once it's dried off. Here we go. Now, bringing this wing together, it's simply a matter of folding it over. I'm going to do it this way because obviously we have our protruding aileron torsion rod there, so if we bring it over this way, we can firmly press the wing down onto itself. So the first part of it is to create that triangle at the top, like so, so that these two parts are brought together here, and it's attaching all the way down the wing to the spar. And then that's come together nicely. We can just make sure that everything fits nicely together. So we've got to this point, we're just making sure that this matches up at the back there, like so. And therefore it should also match up at the tip as well. So now let's put some pressure on the wing just to make sure that everything is sticking down as it should do. We check the dimensions to make sure that we have a symmetrical wing. And then we can start pinching the edges together. And this is where our ball tool comes in very handy. We can actually then just apply pressure to the edges, like so. So once again, the same rule applies as we did with the tail feathers, is that you can turn it over and do both edges like that. I've got a little bit of an overlap like that with a white showing, so I can actually just trim that. There we go. And just push everything down. You can also use it to round off those edges as well. So there we have a nice symmetrical wing shape. You can see there our wingtips with reduced amount of white line there. We can actually run a black marker around there or something similar just to take that away completely. So we're nearly there. We've just got to finish off our aileron. So I'll just get the aileron piece out of the sprue, and that'll be our sprue done with. There we go. Dispose of that. Now this needs a little trimming because obviously we had the 2mm, the 2 score lines around it, and we've also got this 1 score line that runs down. See if you can see that there. The score line runs down the leading edge of the aileron, just there, and that is going to allow us to put a fold in the aileron on its leading edge. But before we do that, we are going to pop a chamfer on the trailing edge. And this is once again a fairly shallow chamfer. It comes in contact with the trailing edge of the corresponding aileron skin on the bottom of the wing. Go, and we are going to put another chamfer on the leading edge there as well. It doesn't have to be so shallow this time, so I'm just doing it while I've got a 45 degree would probably be just about right, maybe even less, maybe a 30 degree there or thereabouts. So once we've got that in there, we're now going to use that score line just to put a bend in the front of this aileron. You can see here I'm bending it over the 90, but it sort of sits back, so it forms a obtuse angle like so, and that's how it will form up on the aileron on the wing there, like so. But what we're going to do initially is make sure that that is well and truly set in there, and then we're going to add some glue to the forward edge of the aileron. so. I was a little bit overzealous there on the glue, and we're actually going to just pop that front edge to the front edge, just basically by the leading edge, so the leading edge there, that we can see through the cutouts, or we can judge where it is via the cutouts in the sticker that you should be able to see, the hinge sticker that you should be able to see. So I'm letting it, as you see, I've got it at an angle so that the entire edge is coming into contact with the, well, essentially it's the sticker there, there's not much else. So what we'll do, we'll let that thoroughly dry, and then we will glue our edges together at the back there. This has had a little time to dry off, so it should stay in place. So the idea now is, obviously, we bring these two trailing edges together and match them up like so, so that essentially you're creating or you're pushing the material up into this triangle that the whole structure is forming. So what we need to do now is just apply some glue to the trailing edge of the aileron. Like so. And then we'll bring them together and then let them fall apart again if they want to. There we go, a little bit of encouragement. Once again, let that dry and then we'll bring them together permanently. Unfortunately, the sound went as we were bringing our aileron together at the back there, but essentially what I did was obviously squeeze these two edges together. I then finished that off by running the ball down the edge, top and bottom, and that was it. The wing is now complete. So what we can do now is do a trial installation of this on the fuselage. I have already trial installed the left wing, and what I ended up doing was bending the torsion rod slightly forward of where it was, just to get a neutral aileron when the servo arm, which you can see sitting in there, the grey thing, is in its neutral position, which is where it's at the moment. So let's just trial fit our right wing, our starboard wing. So we've got two elements to get through the fuselage. We've got our brace, which is an extension of the spar that runs down the fuselage, the wing itself, and we've also got to get the torsion rod through. So the first thing that goes through is the torsion rod, which goes into the hole that we originally reinforced with our little plastic star on the inside. So we'll pop that in, and then we want it to go in the general direction of that slot in the control arm, like so. And whilst we're doing that, we need to try and make sure that the brace itself goes into the hole. So it's sort of a, there we go. So the wire's in the slot, and then we can push home the wing into position. So that's a dry fit at the moment, so there's no glue involved. There should be a zero dihedral on that, which there is, and just check out the where the aileron is actually sitting when the wire is in the neutral position. So I can see here that the aileron is slightly down on its position by a few millimeters, so we need to bend that rod slightly forward so the aileron comes up and go from there. So I also noticed that the wire is quite close to the outer edge of the slot. Now I prefer it if it was slightly in, had a bit more clearance. So what I can do is actually bend the rod out slightly too. So let's do both of those at the same time. So there we go. So let's bend it out slightly to start off with. So I'm just going to get my pliers and just apply a little bit of pressure. I only want a millimeter or so from where it was. And then I want to bend it forward slightly from its position. So I'm just going to grip it at the top here. And then, once again, apply a bit of pressure so it's angling forward slightly. Okay, well, let's give that a go, see how it sits in the aircraft now. So, lining up both slots. There we go. There, that seems a lot better. Maybe we could do with just a pinch more forward. So we'll do that. And I'll probably take the angle back just slightly. It was just a little bit too much. There we go. So, and a tiny bit more forward. So I've just basically, where I'd angled it out slightly into the fuselage, I've just brought it back a little bit. And then I'm just going to give it a tiny little bit more forward. There we go. So hopefully this will be the last time we have to trial fit. There we go. Yes, that's much better. That's sitting nice and neutrally on the wing. Excellent. Okay, we'll take it off and then we will attach both wings to the fuselage on a more permanent basis. So to do that, we'll just put some glue around the wing root itself. Avoid putting it anywhere near the torsion rod, and then a little more down the back there. Okay. Right. So we've repeated this process so much. Now you see why I haven't put right to the back there, because this actually, the back of the wing touches the fuselage and I don't want to smear glue all over it. So there we go. So the other thing we need to check is that the wing is sitting in a neutral position. So basically, if you look at where the trailing edge of the wing sits, it's around about a third down on the graphic there, but it should feel neutral with regards to where it's sitting with the oblong wing brace in the oblong slot, if you see what I mean. The wing just seems to have a little bit of a twist in it, so I'm just changing the good thing about this material is that you can actually flex it and move it around to your requirements. Excellent, that's not looking too bad at all. And we can always have a bit of a play later as well. So now let's just do the same on the other side. We'll apply some glue. And the important thing is here, once we've got this wing on, is that the twist or any twist that we've got or any alignment issues that we have, we need to make sure that both wings are set up exactly the same or as close as possible. So we've got our wire in the slot. Just need to get our brace into. Go. Fantastic. So angle of attack has got to be the same, so let's just make sure the wings are sitting in the very same place on either side. And making sure that we have that 0 degrees of dihedral. So I've got some little boxes, there we go, that had some batteries in, and I'm just popping that under the wing on either side. You can see the other one there, and I'll let that set, and then hopefully we will have a nice 0 dihedral wing. So now the aircraft has had time to set on the wings. You can see it's nice 0 dihedral that we've got. Everything seems to be lined up. There's a little bit of a twist on the tail, but we can have a, yeah, that looks mighty fine. Clear the decks of our batteries, and yeah, so there we have the Banshee with wings on now.